Hello, my name is Arthur, and in this video we're going to go Blender to Godot and make a quick tile set. So we'll just get started on that right away. This is just another way to make a tile set that doesn't involve figuring out a bunch of angles in GIMP, and so we'll just get right at that. We'll start off by adding a circle. We'll use F9 to call up its dialog, and we're going to double its size to 2 meters. We'll take that into edit mode, extrude it, merge at center, select all, tab into object mode, shift duplicate it, drop it. We'll get the move tool, and we'll use the control key to move our duplicate good and clear of our working model here. So this will be the first set, which is just going to be a river corner and a river straight. So it's enough to be able to put a river into the scene. So we'll start off. We're in object mode. We're adding a new object here. We're going to add a circle. F9 to call up its dialog. This one we're going to make 0.1. We'll tab into edit mode, add a circle. F9. This one we're going to make 0.2. Add a circle. F9. This one we're going to make 0.8. Add another circle, F9, and this one will make 0.9. Now we're going to add a plane. So we'll add a plane to that. We'll select all, tab into object mode, select our first circle, tab into edit mode with both items. Everything is selected. Mesh, knife project. Tab back into object mode, select our plane and circle assembly here, and just delete it because its use is done. And we'll take our tiles into object mode. From here, we can go into faces, and we're just going to select the exterior. So we'll circle select the outside of that. Delete X faces. So we'll get rid of that. We'll go into vertices and we'll erase 3/4 of this. So X, delete vertices. X, delete vertices. We'll come back into faces, circle select the river bottom, get the move tool. We'll pull that down a little bit. Doesn't need to be pulled down far. It'll give the impression when it's an isometric render that we need it to. Go back into a top view, number 7 on the keypad, into vertices. We'll select just this edge of vertices here. We'll extrude that, drop it with the right mouse click, use the control key and pull it over one full blender unit, and that's our 2 tiles. So we can press the period key, change our pivot point to 3D cursor, select all, rotate that by 90 degrees, and pull it aside. We'll use the control key because we want to keep things on the grid. Then we can come into object mode, get our second circle. We'll go back into median point, so our move tool is with our circle, and use the control key. Alternatively, we could snap selection to cursor. That would do the same thing. So now we're going to go through the same procedure. We're in object mode, creating a new object. We're going to, again, create a sequence of circles. So F9, we'll make the first circle 0.3. Tab into object edit mode because we just want this to be one object. We'll add a second circle. F9, this one will be 0.4. Add another circle. F9, this one will be 0.6. And add another circle. F9, this one will be 0.7. And we'll add a plane. Select all, tab into object mode, shift, select the tile, tab back into edit mode, mesh, knife project. We can tab back into object mode, delete this assembly again, and take the tiles into edit mode. So we'll come back into face select. We'll circle select just the outside of that. Whoops. And a little mouse malfunction there. It's either my mouse or my fingers malfunction, I'm not sure which. We'll delete faces. We'll go into vertices. Delete 3/4 of this assembly. Delete vertices and delete vertices. Go into faces. Select the road top. We'll look at that from a bit of an angle and pull it up slightly. We don't want to pull it up far. Giving too much of a lump here gives a bad appearance in isometric view where it's almost questionable even to bother doing it, because too much of a lump gives the impression that the unit or player going over the road should be sort of changing altitude with the altitude change in the road. So we don't want to give it a lot of altitude. The river is a barrier, but this is something that a unit would go over top of, so it comes across much differently. So now we're going to use a series of extrusions to make the remaining tiles. So we'll press E. When I drop things where they're at, it's with the right mouse button. That way it doesn't get moved off of the grid, because everything stays on the grid in this procedure. So we use the control key to snap to the grid. This is our straight through road tile. And that constitutes 6 tiles, because when we image them, we'll just be rotating them. We'll extrude that edge again. This edge, we'll use the control key and move it over 0.3, extrude it, drop it, move it over 0.1, extrude it, drop it, move it over 0.2, extrude it, drop it, oops. Control, move it over 0.1, extrude it, drop it, and fill in the rest of the tile. So that is 3 more tiles, and most of the set is already completed. So we'll shift duplicate this one. We'll move it down 1 blender unit. We'll shift duplicate it again, move it over 1 blender unit. We'll box select this edge. This is the dead end tile. So we can just slide this over whatever random distance you want to be your dead end. Select all, merge by distance. This consolidates everything and gets rid of some vertices that are loose. Now we can select this one corner, Shift D to duplicate it, drop it where it is, and move it over one Blender unit. Circle select the four corners of the blank empty tile and give it a face. At this point, it's good to check where our faces are at. And it looks to me like all of the faces for this assembly are inverted. Let's have a look at our normals. I'll flip our normals. That gets that correct. We'll tab into object mode. Bring this one into edit mode. Its normals look like they're flipped, so we'll go mesh, normals, flip. Get all the normals right onto this one. Whoops. We'll use the control key, not the shift key. That does the wrong thing. We'll line it up beside this other assembly of tiles. What we're looking for is none of the open edges for roadway should be touching any of the tiles, and this one doesn't count because this is the dead end tile. So no roadway is spilling out into an area that would have grass. Is basically what we're looking at here. In the next video, we'll come back and we'll create a UV map for this. So what we're going to do is we're going to select everything, Control J to join. It's now one object and ready to be UV mapped. So in the next video, we'll come back, we'll make the UV template, export it, and do the editing in GIMP to make something to wrap onto this and give it a nice appearance. And until then, take care.